this is a Skubana facilitated and hosted webinar joined by Avask and First Choice Shipping. Everyone say hello.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, guys, so listen to this. Of course, we have some technical difficulties here at Skubana. Melanie is international and she couldn't dial in, so she's going to be on speakerphone. She may come in light. This webinar is going to be an hour, and I want to thank everyone for joining. It's jam-packed with a lot of information about going international on Amazon. And so I think without further ado, typically we have just a lot of fun stuff in the beginning. At this point, I think we're just going to rock and roll and go right into it. Sound good? Cool.
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
Make it happen.
All right, so why don't we, if you guys don't mind, Pearl, Melanie, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. I'll start first, I guess. Hey, everybody. My name is Pearl. I'm with First Choice Shipping. We specialize in helping Amazon sellers, especially, get their product into any Amazon international location, wherever that may be, wherever Amazon themselves will not offer that service. So basically, whenever your product is going out of the country, be it from the US to the United Kingdom or from, let's say, China into the US, we can make it happen and get it into Amazon successfully with all the added on services or the added requirements that Amazon has. So thanks for having me. Really excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, sure. So this is Melanie from Avask Accounting. We do the same thing, but we don't do shipping. We do taxes. We help sellers with their compliance matter in Europe, Australia, and recently the UAE. So anybody that is looking to expand using the Amazon platforms, then we'll be there to help them to navigate through their tax activities in those countries.
Awesome. And so some people are saying that they don't have audio yet, but I have full audio on my side. Just mention in the chat if you don't have audio. Hold on 1 second. I made sure. All right, people are still up. Audio just started. I got someone. Audio is a go. Okay, fantastic.
Beautiful.
False alarm, Emily. Okay. And just full disclosure, guys, my name is Chad Rubin. I'm with Skubana here, founder of Skubana, and today I'm facilitating the webinar. I'm super excited. I actually use, just to be very specific, I use First Choice on all my shipping, and certainly highly recommend Avask to do a lot of your taxes as you sell internationally and abroad. So let's dive in to some of these nuggets because we only have an hour today, and I want to be respectful of your time. So essentially, we're going to talk about how to expand internationally. If you want to access those markets, if you want to do it in the right way with best practices and save you some money, that's what we're going to cover today. So Pearl, why don't you start just talking about the opportunity?
Yeah, sure. So basically, obviously selling the US is a tremendous opportunity, and the US market by far, for Amazon especially, is the biggest market. But people don't realize that there are so many other options. Instead of having to continue struggling in the United States with all this saturated amount of sellers there are and the restrictions and all that kind of stuff, the European market is so large. And if you actually look at this chart that Chad just pulled up, you'll see some of the numbers that we're talking about. And the competition, the sellers that are selling there are a small, tiny fraction of the sellers that are actually selling in the United States. So there's tremendous opportunity. And of course, we'll dive into many different reasons why it's a good opportunity. But in general, people will pay more for products over there just because of the reasons I mentioned, because there's way less sellers selling the product. So you're dealing with less competition, which automatically means you could charge more. And people don't have the product available like they have in the US. So automatically they'll pay a premium to get those products. So these are some really good numbers to look at as far as, you know, what population the EU has and what opportunity there is.
Yeah, bottom line on this slide is you want to go where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And if everybody finds it easy to sell on Amazon US, try looking into international expansion, because there's a lot less competition there, and that's really the way that you'll be able to get a nice uptick in business.
Yeah, and we'll teach you today how it's really easy, and why people think it's tough, but we'll squash all those fears.
And just plug here, Skubana, we're an operational platform to run and automate your business, everything after checkout across every channel, not just Shopify and Jet and Walmart and Home Depot, but Amazon and Amazon International. We have some of the coolest clients on our platform like Bird, Nomad, Coco Floss, and Deathwish. Cool. And we're going to give a big bonus giveaway at the end of this, so stay tuned. All right. Now, let's talk about using FBA to ship multi-channel fulfillment. So this is something that I'm finding a lot of merchants doing today. Essentially is building a warehouse internationally in Amazon, having your product sit there, and essentially use multi-channel fulfillment for your off-channel, even just google.co.uk opportunity, and to use Amazon almost as a 3PL. Pearl, you want to talk about translation?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it. So funny enough, I'll give you an example of a customer I just had a couple weeks ago. Basically, this customer was shipping a very nice amount, but nothing significant. And we realized, like, within a few weeks, his shipment shot up. And I called the guy and I said, his name is Mort, and I said, Mort, could you give me the secret sauce? You know, for me, obviously, I want to help our sellers. We call our, you know, our customers strategic partners and in whatever we do, because they obviously make our business successful. So I asked him what his secret sauce was, and he said, "I'll tell you honestly, I had my listings translated when I started with Amazon, but I was able to get somebody from, you know, a native speaker in the EU to actually look through my listings, and they were going through piece by piece and basically telling me how there are so many words that are, yes, they're English and people speak English, let's say in the UK, but there were so many words that they use differently than we do, and his listings were just not optimizing to the capacity that it should have. And he had somebody do this, and within the next couple of weeks, his listings went skyrocketing. So be very careful with how you're translating your listings. Yes, I know it's a cheap way if you're working with Amazon to do it, so they do it for free, but definitely get somebody that speaks the language to review it and make sure that whatever keywords they're using within the listings, and of course your PPC and all that stuff, do have the right words that will bring you the sales that you're expecting. For example, like a gift basket is called a hamper in the UK. So people wouldn't know that offhand, obviously. So just do your research, and don't use Google for your translation.
Yeah, and one of the things I would recommend is always be harvesting. So I always use that approach in the United States, along with international, is you always want to harvest keywords, whether they're directly related to your ASIN or whether they're adjacent, which is called latent semantic indexing, LSI. You can use an LSI search engine to find other adjacent keywords to whatever you're using and embed that into your listing internationally. Now, I would say just the last thing I want to say is a recent nugget I found. Essentially, what you can do is you can create your bullet points from your US listing. You can use Google Drive, use the Excel spreadsheet in Google Drive. I think it's called just Google Spreadsheets. And you can actually auto-translate from there and then deliver that to a native speaker so they can actually make sure that all the sentences made sense.
That's great.
But you can do it, you can take all your bullets from every listing, create tabs, and essentially auto-translate each of those just with equals the cell. You can Google it and you'll see, you can look it up. It's pretty awesome.
Wow, that's great.
Now, another thing that a lot of our merchants are doing is they're actually creating what we call virtual bundles or kits. So a virtual bundle or a kit is essentially you taking this earpiece and this cell phone case, pairing it together, even though it doesn't come pre-assembled that way, seeing if it sells, and then having a software do the bundle breakdown and having one person pull the cell phone case and one person pull the buds. So you want to be able to test various different kits or bundles internationally, see what works, break it down, and you can use multi-channel fulfillment to do that, and then decide what you want to make sure to have FBA in Amazon's facility, because obviously FBA gives you that, and Prime eligibility gives you that nice Prime bump that you want.
Yeah, just to build on that point, you know, we work very closely with Amazon on global. They did say very clearly that you should be doing 80% better if you're doing FBA versus merchant fulfilled. So all those, you know, people that are doing just the merchant fulfilled, definitely explore your options there.
Yep. And by the way, we want to make sure that people are chatting. So there's been people posting great stuff. Kim just wrote, you can hire people to do your translations on Upwork as well.
Yep.
And they can optimize your pages too.
That's great.
So one of the things that Skubana does, but again, you can do this manually, but Skubana automatically will do it, is it'll actually break down your bundle for you right from here. So you can auto break down those bundles, because you don't want to just stock all your FBA, all your kits and bundles at Amazon with stock sitting there, which hurts your inventory performance index. It's like Amazon is in the business of selling your stuff, not storing your stuff. So it's great to like test the market first, see what sticks, and then make sure you're sending it over FBA. Let's talk about Avast. Avast, Melanie, what do you guys provide, and what are some big mistakes that you're seeing merchants making right now as they sell internationally?
I would say it has always been not knowing the fact that they've got to be VAT registered. I think that's got to be the main mistake that sellers make. So I would say just ensure that you find an advisor that's going to, number one, look at the product that you're selling and advise you as to on which rate you're supposed to be on, and the fact that which country you are supposed to be compliant on. I think later on we're going to touch about the pan-EU as to where we've seen some seriously major mistakes that sellers that have made. But number one, I would say the VAT registration is absolutely important in making sure you're registered in that country.
How do we know when you need to register and be VAT compliant?
You've got to know from day one before you even start shipping. Usually, if you're using shipping companies like First Choice, they will obviously advise you that you need to have a VAT number and then a lorry number. But that's not difficult to deal with. Like Pelle said, that in terms of like the translations, they're the ones that are very, very important. And then number two, ensuring that you've got your VAT number sorted. I would say over the years, we've seen that sellers have expanded using the UK. We're seeing a bit of a change there, where we're looking at Germany at the same time. We're seeing sellers coming through Germany now, which is something that wasn't happening before.
So if there's a merchant that's on the call today and they haven't started selling internationally, what is the top 3 marketplaces that you see merchants having the most success with? Pearl, Melanie, go.
Okay, I'll go first. I would say I see UK, which is number one. And then
UK is number 1. Okay, people are having a hard time hearing you, Melanie. We're getting a lot of feedback in the chat, so I'm just going to kind of like mirror what you're saying to make sure that everyone's grabbing these nuggets. So UK is number 1.
Yeah, and UK is number 1, and we're seeing a lot of Germany, and then there is France.
Okay, so UK, Germany, and France. Got it.
Those are the main ones, but also don't forget that the 5 countries, the population is 270 million, yet in the US is 325 million. So I would say, even if those ones are the top 3 countries, don't forget Spain and Italy. Italy is changing culturally. Yeah. The people are really going into the internet world now.
Melanie, we are having a lot of people say that your quality is coming in not well. And it's unfortunate. Unless you can actually get into a microphone, it's probably not going to be the best bet. People can't hear you, and they're saying it's valuable, but they just can't hear what you're saying. So we'll probably have to do the best that we can. Pearl, I know you have a great relationship with Melanie. You guys talk all the time, so maybe you can channel a lot of that knowledge. Are you comfortable speaking about the Pan-European program?
We could definitely talk about it, but I do want to just voice, mirror what Melanie said now, because I know there's a big misconception that people have, and you'll go in these big Facebook groups and you'll see these big gurus, so to speak, say this. They are claiming that there's a certain threshold that you need to reach before needing to register. And that's completely not true. So I just want to make sure that people know that. From day one, you must be registered for VAT. There's no loopholes around that. So people should know that. So,
and Pearl, what does it cost to be VAT? What does it cost for that registration?
So there's a very minimal fee for that. Coming through Melanie and ourselves, we actually do have a promotion. We do free of charge for the VAT for the UK. So whoever will be on this webinar will do that free of charge. Normally it's around £300, which is around 400 something dollars, US dollars. So for our viewers, but what Melanie started saying now was that Germany is becoming the next place that Amazon is targeting. So till now, the UK was the only marketplace that Amazon suspended you if you didn't have a VAT number. But now Germany is the next place that Amazon is targeting. If you do not have a VAT number and you reached a threshold of 100K, I believe, per year, you would need to be registered, and Amazon is suspending those sellers. So look into the promotions that Amazon is offering through Avast, because I know there was some promotion going on to do that for a very minimal fee. But basically that's the situation. So if you want me to focus on Pan EU for a moment, I'll explain to you the two different programs that Amazon has in order to expand successfully into the EU.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in.
Perfect. So Amazon has two programs. They have the EFN program and then they have the Pan EU program. So the EFN program is European Fulfillment Network. That's what it stands for. You would need to ship to one location, and Amazon will fulfill from that location directly to your customer. So let's say I'm shipping it to the UK, and somebody from Germany places an order. Amazon will take inventory from the UK and ship it to the customer in Germany. Then they have the program called the Pan EU program, which basically means you ship it to one place as well, but then Amazon will distribute your product throughout the entire EU. So France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Czech Republic. And the upside of that is that your product is closer to the customer. So automatically your product is more, your listings are better optimized, which results in better sales, obviously. The downside to that would be, obviously, it takes a little bit longer to register for each of those countries. You legally need to have a VAT number wherever your product is stored. So for the EFN program, if you only ship it to the UK, you're liable only to register for a UK VAT number. Unless you reach a threshold of over 100K in Germany, then you would need to get one in Germany as well. But what most sellers start with would be the EFN program. But since Brexit is on, the tip of the iceberg right now, Amazon is very much encouraging people to do the Pan EU. So you're registered wherever, because they know there's going to be a trend. It's going to be first the UK, then it's going to be Germany, and it's going to continue on. So on their end, they want to make sure they're safe, and you're going to be here for the long haul. But we do recommend sellers definitely in the beginning to start with the EFN program, just because of costs, and it's just not so, difficult, because you won't have to do filing for every single quarter for each of those 7 countries. So definitely, evaluate your business to see where you're at, and make a decision based on that, where it's going to be, the smartest place to start.
Cool. And then you want to go through, so we went through some of these benefits. Is there anything else you want to point out from here?
Yeah, so these are definitely great points. So if you're doing Pan EU, again, your product is going to be stored in all 7 countries, so automatically there's faster shipping times. So versus if you're doing EFN, your product is only in the UK, yes, it is going to be Prime eligible, but it's going to be Prime eligible with a couple more days added on. So it might be Prime, but let's say if it's going to Germany, it could be 3-4 days versus 2 days if your product is already stored there. Increased product visibility we spoke about, and lower fulfillment fees, which is definitely a big one. But I tell my sellers, wait 6 months, see where your most sellers are coming from, and if you see, okay, my product is selling really well in Germany, maybe I should change my business plan and ship my product directly to Germany, and get better visibility and more sales.
Pearl, these are some massive not discrepancies, but deltas between the EFN and the Pan-European. You mentioned to start with EFN first. Are you saying that because you just ship all your stuff to one node, and is it just a great way to quickly see and test the market?
Exactly. So if you see your sales once you shipped it to the UK, and it's just a very foolproof and easy way of doing it, right? Because you only need to get that number in the UK. You only need to file taxes in the UK. You see after 6 months, why am I saying 6 months? Because you probably know this as well. But any new Amazon account does take around 6 months until your account is optimized and you see the full picture of what things are, how are the sales actually going to do there.
And somebody asked here, once registered, do you file VAT monthly or quarterly? What's the cost? Do we know that?
Each country has its own rules, but for the UK, it would be every quarter. But Melanie would definitely know better for, let's say, the other ones, but I believe Germany is monthly. But definitely Melanie would if Melanie could get back on and tell us what the timeframes for each of those are, that would be great.
Yeah, so if you're looking at Germany is on a monthly basis, and then the most of Europe is on a monthly basis, except for Spain and. Hear me now?
Yeah, you're coming in and out. Go ahead, Melanie, try again.
Yeah, I was going to say that most of the countries in Europe, they are on a monthly basis, except for the UK and also
basically.
Yeah, we're losing Melanie. We lost you. There is material being presented on the slides. Someone said they can't see the material being presented. Just want to confirm in the chat that everyone can see the material that we're showing on the screen. All right. So while that's happening, let's move on to the next slide. We still can hear Melanie. Essentially.
Yeah. Can you guys get me? I don't know what's happening with my audio today.
Perfect. Yeah. We hear you great now.
Okay, fantastic. So what I was saying is that most of Europe is on a monthly basis, but if you look at Spain and the UK, those two countries are the ones that are on a quarterly basis in terms of like filing.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. And Melanie, you want to just share, just quickly give us a brief idea of like how people work with you in your company? Do you guys do the filing?
That's correct. We do the filing and the initial registrations. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic!
Perfect.
That's absolutely brilliant. That's brilliant. So I think I am back on air. So we literally help the sellers with the VAT registration and also the compliance that is required in the countries.
Okay, great. And so, like, let's just say you only plan to list in UK and Germany. Would you help people file in those countries?
That's correct. That's correct. We would be able to help them in Germany, but when I was sort of like off air, I was coming in and out where you were talking about the Pan-European program. The Pan-European program is obviously good for sellers that have been on the platform for quite a while. Amazon is pushing that one very hard, but I would say, like Pal said, the EFN network is still one of the best ones in terms of like getting somebody getting started. The filing will be required once you are VAT registered. I would say do not ignore it and think that you're not required to file once you're VAT registered. It is a requirement, and the tax authorities in Europe are shutting down accounts that are not being compliant. So that is absolutely important to make sure that you are fully compliant by filing on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis.
And how does Brexit affect Amazon merchants that are in the Pan-EU program or MFN program? Can you talk a little bit more about your experience with Brexit and what you're seeing?
Yeah, so, when the Brexit first came around, I think even us from a tax advisory firm side, we were really concerned in terms of like the change in legislation and how things are going to happen, and sellers as well. But, it's still going to be having some really impact on people that are not VAT registered in other countries. But what we advise sellers at this stage is that if you're looking to come through to this market, especially in Europe, so let's get your VAT registered in the UK, and also maybe let's pick up one country, let's say Germany being a big country. So get registered in the UK and Germany. So Germany is going to cater for the EU side, and the UK will be catering for the UK. What you don't want to do is to have your inventory stuck in the UK when the Brexit is happening. Thank God that they've postponed it now to the 31st of October. So I would say sellers, they've still got some time to sort of plan in terms of like as to which strategy they want to use. But until now, I would say get Germany VAT number underway anyway, so that Germany can cater for the European markets. UK can just look at the UK side.
And how long does it take to get a German VAT number? What's the time frame?
With Germany, it takes longer than most of the countries, but I would say at least for US sellers, up to 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? So let's just say Brexit happens. You have your inventory sitting at Amazon FBA facility in the UK. Can you transfer it to Germany from there, or do you have to destroy it, or do you have to remove it and bring it back home and then reship it? What are you suggesting to merchants, or what are you seeing?
So what I would suggest now, again, I think it's a blessing in disguise, the fact that they've actually postponed it to the 31st of October, because when the Brexit comes in, what I would advise sellers is that, number one, move your inventory to one country in Europe before it actually happens. So have your inventory stored in Germany or in France, but whichever country you choose, you're going to have to be VAT registered in those countries in order to make sure that you're being fully compliant with the law of that country. If we go through the WTO rules, whereby UK now becomes a third country, it means that if you've got inventory already in the UK, what's going to happen is you might be charged some import tax charges for the products to be transferred over into Germany. Whereas if you'd done it before the Brexit happens, it means that you'd have an opportunity of transferring the inventory into Germany without having to pay any taxes. And then your next shipments that are going to be coming through, you can ship them directly into Germany, or the one that's coming into the UK for the UK. It's a mix-up. I mean, it's going to happen on the 31st of October. It's closer to the Christmas holidays, so there's a lot of planning that is supposed to be done. In the meantime, whilst the Brexit hasn't happened yet, by all means, continue shipping straight to the UK, transfer the inventory into Germany whilst we still can. Make sure that when you're ready for the Christmas holidays, Black Friday, and everything else that's going to be happening during the holidays, you already have the inventory in Germany or in France, which means that you're going to be you're going to be all right in terms of like inventory in Europe.
Got it. Okay. And so Brad asked a question, if we use FBA in the UK, how do you get your product from the US to the UK? That might be a layup for Pearl, right?
Yep, that's right. That's something we can help with. Absolutely. We'll definitely go into that. So basically that's what we specialize in. Anywhere that Amazon doesn't provide shipping for whatever reason, mostly the reasons will be because Amazon doesn't provide shipping internationally. That's what we're going to be able to help you with, getting your shipment from point A to point B. So we'll dive into all that in the following.
And just to piggyback on that, or add an exclamation mark, I use First Choice for a lot of my samples that I have coming from Asia here, and we do all that through First Choice, and she saves us tons of money. So Pearl's a rock star, and definitely feel free to pick her brain after this webinar.
Yeah.
Just Melanie, real quick, what was the cost of the monthly filings? I want to make sure that everyone has that information at their fingertips.
Okay, so for the cost is that for UK it's £870, that is per year. But if you're going through the Amazon Pan EU program, it's even much better, because it means that and you're under the promotion, Amazon is going to be paying for you for the first year, and then second year you're going to have to pay for you, but you're going to get again reduced fees. So you're looking at about $1,200 for Germany if you are under the Amazon promotion. And again, if somebody has already launched under in the UK or in Europe, it's possible to get them a promotion to get their VAT numbers for the countries so where they don't have VAT numbers for free, and also as well as the filing.
Got it. All right, great. Thanks for all that info. All right, Pearl, so you're up here on talking about mistakes when shipping to Amazon FBA.
Yep. Perfect.
So can you walk us through some of these mistakes so we can prevent ourselves from making these?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, these are, the mistakes I'm going to get into are the many reasons why Amazon themselves does not provide shipping. So what we offer is what Amazon offers you when you're shipping in the domestic country. So if you're shipping from Amazon in the US into Amazon's fulfillment centers domestically, then they'll give you shipping rates through UPS or FedEx or LTL partnered carriers at very discounted rates. We are that model for the international market, and Amazon actually will recommend sellers that they're recruiting to use first choice shipping for all these reasons. So let's go right into it. So the very first mistake that we find sellers will do when they're actually shipping on their own, or they're going directly with a carrier like DHL or UPS that is not necessarily Amazon savvy and will know the rules, is they will ship with the Incoterm of DDU versus DDP, and I'll explain to you what that means. So when I'm shipping out internationally, I need to include a invoice with my value and description written out clearly, so customs knows exactly what charges will incur based on that for customs. So what you're going to have on your commercial invoice is going to be a section that will be called the Incoterms, which will tell customs, this is how I plan on paying my bill. So normally when I'm shipping internationally, like Chad, when you mentioned you're bringing in samples from, let's say, China to the US for your team, you would be shipping with the Incoterm DDU, which means that whoever is going to be receiving the shipment at the door of your warehouse or wherever is going to be paying for those taxes. Because normally when I'm shipping internationally, the receiver will be paying for any charges related to the shipment when it comes to customs. But of course, Amazon does not want to pay for your customs charges. So you need to make sure you're using a term called DDP, which stands for duties and deliveries paid for. So when it passes through customs, they already know how Amazon wants things. They're not going to go ahead and refuse your shipment because of this reason. This is one of the top mistakes we find sellers make when they go through a forwarder or directly with a carrier that's not familiar with how Amazon works. They'll basically bill charges to the receiver, and of course their shipment is refused, and they're going to have basically a bill that they have to pay for because it's already past the border, and that's just how most carriers work. If it passes the border, then the charges are just going to be charged to you. So definitely be careful and not doing that.
Great. Let's move into the next one here. Number 2, make it happen.
Perfect. Okay, so another very important part of shipping into Amazon. So there's something called an importer of record, which in simple terms basically means the person that's responsible for the security of the shipping or the shipment rather. So that you're not shipping anything that's dangerous, that they're going to take responsibility of any taxes that are owed or anything that goes wrong in the shipment. The importer of record would be the point of contact that Amazon, not Amazon, that actually customs would reach out to. So Amazon does not want to be the importer of record, and this is where issues come in. So normally the receiver in the forwarding country is the person that will be the importer of record because it needs to be an address in the country that you're shipping to. So basically, you're not able to use Amazon's address. You're not able to use their name. So what do? Because you don't have a presence in that country, right? Let's say if it's the UK or Canada, what do? So you need to have an alternate address that will act as your importer of record that will make sure that when customs is clearing your shipment, they know, okay, I see Amazon is now listed as the importer. I see another address and I see their phone number. Okay, if we have any issues, we know who to call. If the importer of record, again, is going to be Amazon, another reason why your shipment would be shipped back to you. So be very careful that you're using, either you have an alternate address, you have a presence in that country, or use a forwarder that will have a presence that will be able to act as your importer of record, which is something that we do. We have warehouses in where every Amazon FBA location, so we can act as your importer instead of Amazon.
And Pearl, just to piggyback, do you have a return location?
Yes, we're going to cover returns also. So these warehouses that we're acting as, the importer for you will also be an option for sellers to be able to ship their returns to, because again, Amazon does not have the option of shipping back out because it's international. So you need to have a location where to ship it to.
Yep. And just since we're talking about nuggets on this call and value add, so obviously Amazon doesn't want to be the importer of record because then you become legally responsible for the goods that come into the country. God forbid there's patent issues or there's anything that's infringing, or if anybody died from a product, Amazon just doesn't want that liability. When you're importing into the United States, it's very, very important that you make sure that you're on your bill of lading, that you block your information, because there's lots of softwares out there like Panjiva or Import Genius that literally expose your business where people can actually find out where you're importing from.
Yes.
So just a little nugget here. Make sure you apply to essentially the Border Control or Trade Commission. We've launched that in our Nugget Fridays and our newsletter before, where we talk a little bit about that. Essentially, you can essentially apply, and I think they block your information for 2 years, and you constantly have to renew. Just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We've had importers that we will make sure that we're going to do it a blind shipment. Mm-hmm. So to ensure that that's hidden information, you don't want anybody finding out your source. That's obviously
for sure
priceless.
Shmaya in the comments here said, can you comment on importing to the UK versus Germany? Germany is a much harder market to import to. Is there anything you want to share there?
Yeah, we definitely talk about that. So Germany, the reason why they're difficult is because unfortunately most people aren't compliant the way they should be. Firstly, they won't have a VAT number registered there, which is a big reason why customs would give you a hard time. And another thing is that when you're shipping into the UK, they definitely are much, more lenient with values that people declare their shipments for and the descriptions they put in. But when it goes to Germany, you literally need to be very itemized on your commercial invoice with exactly what I'm shipping. So if I'm shipping clothing, don't write clothing. You should write trousers, shirts, skirts, whatever it is, very clearly, and a value that obviously makes sense. And I just do want to mention one thing. When you're shipping into Amazon, the value you're putting down will always be the value that it costed you and not what you're selling it for, because your goods are not sold yet. So don't waste your tax dollars on values that are crazy high for no reason.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about using the wrong HS code, and there's various reasons why sometimes people use the wrong HS code, but let's dive deeper into it.
Sure. So when you're filling out a commercial invoice, not all carriers and not all, let's say, air freight providers or airlines will necessarily make a big deal out of you not putting down an HS code. So what an HS code is, basically, it's a harmonized code. Some people call it a tariff code. It's a number that equals the kind of item that I'm shipping. So when it passes through customs, they see this number, they know clearly what I'm shipping. Now, lots of people don't know this, and they won't put down a harmonized code, and they'll just put down a description. And what happens is, when it's passing through customs, and let's say I wrote clothing, for example, purposes, customs will see that I just wrote clothing and I didn't have a clear description or an HS code that will tell them exactly what kind of clothing. And what they're going to do is they're going to go to the number that's highest on their list for clothing, because obviously there are hundreds of thousands of different styles and types of clothing, and everything has its own tax rate. So be very careful that you are being descriptive, because what can happen in such a case is you'll have somebody that's actually shipping children's clothing, and since they wrote clothing, customs might go and charge them for a more expensive rate on clothing, which is adult clothing, which does have a tax rate of 20% and then has a duty rate of 12%, versus it's really children's clothing, which is exempt of VAT. So be very careful with your HS codes. Watches also is something that we found, a gold watch versus somebody shipping a plastic watch, a children's plastic toy watch. These all have different tax rates. Be very careful to be very descriptive, use the right HS code. If you need help choosing the right one, definitely reach out. You know, if you're using us, reach out to us. We can help you do that. Or just be very careful to look up the right one, because otherwise you might be stuck with a bill that you didn't expect.
Great. So this is just an example of your platform, just the UI. You want to just walk through it?
Yeah, so we actually do have a free tool online that, as long as you're you know, signed up with us, you're able to access our duty and tax calculator. So you could look up any HS codes and what the tax amounts would be free of charge. So definitely a good nugget for, you know, using our services. Yeah,
all right, let's move in. Yeah, we touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, so, you know, returns is obviously the last part of people's journeys usually, and that's unfortunately a lot of times the last piece that people will forget about because they don't really plan it properly. So be very careful when you're actually starting in a new market that you do have a plan on returns, because returns is something that's inevitable. It's going to happen. So make sure you either have a company that will do the returns for you, or if your forwarder has it. We ourselves do have return options for all Amazon FBA locations. So you need to have some place that you could ship your goods back to. It has to be a domestic address because, again, as we mentioned earlier, Amazon will not provide you with the option of returning it. The only thing they'll do for you is dispose it. So have somebody that could either, you know, have it shipped back to them, relabel it, ship it back into FBA if needed, because it does happen from time to time. Amazon will restrict your listing because maybe it wasn't labeled properly, or you might have put the expiration date, you know, in a different format, because people don't know this, but in the UK and the EU, the way they write out the date is they have the day and then the month, versus ours is the month and then the date, you know, for the expiration date. So actually, I did actually get a good tip from one of the Amazon Australia reps. He was dealing with, you know, he kept switching from department to department, recruiting sellers to get into different markets. So he had a good idea. He says, when you're actually preparing your product, no matter where it's going to, if you need to have an expiration date on that product, just write it out with text instead of numbers. So wherever you're shipping to, it's always going to be okay. So in case, you know, you get to a point that you were selling it in the USA and it's not working anymore, and let's say your product is meant for the summer, and you know there's an option of selling it now in Australia because their seasons are different than ours, you could easily ship it into Australia without having to any prep because the date is written out properly. So that was a good piece of advice. So if anybody needs to do expiration dates, try to write it out instead of the numbers. But yeah, that's basically it. Just make sure you have a plan for return so you don't lose some hard-earned money right there.
Cool. Pearl, you want to talk about going air versus ocean?
Sure. So we offer both options coming in from China to, you know, anywhere. We do offer LCL, we do offer air, but for sellers that are starting out, I know that LCL is cheaper, you know, less container loads, which is ocean. I know it's cheaper than shipping by air, but if you calculate the amount you need to ship by ocean versus how little you could ship by air, it sometimes is just worth it to pay a bit more to ship by air. So you start out with a smaller amount so you can really test the market, because once your product gets into Amazon, there is going to be storage that you're incurring, the storage fees, which could really, really kill you. So you're not necessarily going to be saving in the long run. So I highly recommend sellers to start by air. Obviously, if you're selling pillows, I'm not going to tell you to do that. That makes no sense. But if your product is small enough and to justify the cost, and you know, you want to just test the market, start by air. And we do offer the air options with carriers like DHL, UPS, and FedEx, with their, you know, their services, but at up to 80% off their rates, being, you know, we do the tremendous volume that we do with Amazon especially. So just run a quote and see if it works for you, because it might just be.
And obviously lead times are a lot shorter too. What's the difference when you ship from here to, say, the UK versus air, LTL versus air?
That's a great point. So shipping by ocean to the UK could take around 40 days versus with our air options, it's less than 2 days directly into FBA. So we're talking about, yeah, that's a super great point. So you could be launched in a way faster time frame and see already how the market's treating you. Whereas you're waiting 40 days, you're wasting so much time, and you already can know, okay, my next shipment could be LCL because now I see we're ramping things up.
Right. Based on the momentum that you see, you can start organizing an LTL shipment that goes ocean, save you a few dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And I think we touched on most of this here on mistake number 5.
Yeah, perfect. This is it. It's basically what we just spoke about, these points, making sure you don't get those storage fees, don't ship you just shipping a few cartons are going to be obviously way less than LCL shipment, which is a pallet or more, and 2 days versus 40. Definitely a big incentive, what you just mentioned. And how to get the best air rates, which I just mentioned. Use a forwarder that has tremendous advantage with the volume they do, so you can piggyback off those really great rates.
Yeah, so let me just explain this slide here, that Pearl with First Choice will change your life when you're looking at international. And if she doesn't have the right answer, she'll point you in the right answer, whether it's Avast with Melanie or anybody else in the ecosystem that she's comfortable with. It's just, she's really mastered the international marketplace. And best thing about it is it's actually free, right? You're free to sign up. There's no monthly fee, and she's just there to save you money.
Yeah, totally free. So you could ship as much as literally as little as once a year if you want. You basically you pay as you go. So yeah, definitely no service fee or monthly fees. Just take advantage of our really low rates.
So feel free to reach out to Pearl or Melanie. Just let you guys know, you're all listening, is we have 2 other webinars this week. If you're interested, you can feel free to email me at chat@skubana.com. Tomorrow we have a PPC webinar. Thursday we have an SEO webinar. The PPC is about sponsored ads on Amazon. And then on Thursday, it's all about D2C brands going direct with SEO and not paying for ad space, but just actually getting their product to rank organically on Google. So feel free to check us out, subscribe to our Nugget Friday. We have a bonus here for this webinar. You can apply using Bitly, that Bitly link at the bottom to have a conversation and go through it. Again, for me, it's all about, and for anyone who joins these webinars, everyone is aligned with dropping as much value as possible to make sure that everyone leaves here a better merchant or a better brand than when they started.
Perfect. Should we go through some questions that people had, or do you want to just give them?
Yeah, let's go through. If you see any questions we didn't get to, do you see the chat?
Yeah, so I'm just going to start from the top, I guess, then. I see Wayne has been asking, when shipping by air, how are customs and duties paid for? So we pay everything on your behalf, and then we give you the complete bill once it's delivered. Kim asked, are these options only for returns and Amazon doesn't process themselves? So Kim, they do not process any returns at all when you're shipping internationally, because they won't ship out of the country. So you would need somebody like us or somebody that will be able to handle your returns. Joy Williams, First Choice is super fast getting. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Joy, we appreciate it as a customer. Let's see what else. Brad, does First Choice handle non-Amazon shipping from USA to Europe? Yes, we absolutely can do that. Ocean and air, we currently do not ship by ocean from the United States, but from China or pretty much anywhere from Asia, we could ship by ocean. So yeah, we could definitely help you by shipping to the Netherlands. Yeah, so I think that's basically, some of the questions I see here. If anybody's interested in reaching me after the webinar, I am always happy to answer any questions, obligation free. You could email me. I'm going to just write down the email in the chat box. It's basically PA@firstchoiceship.com, P for Peter, A for Apple, @firstchoiceship.com.